Hey, what's up, guys? My name is John. Welcome to Daily Theology. Today, I wanted to cover a little bit of the Minimalists, and I really appreciate these guys. If you don't know these two, Joshua Fields Milburn and Ryan Nicodemus, are the Minimalists, and there are other guys in this space. Joshua Becker is a more conservative voice who would say that he was a Christian, he was a pastor at one point, but I wanted to focus on these guys. And first, right out of the gate, I want to say that I'm grateful for their approach to using things and loving people, and their idea that your money is valuable, but your time is also valuable. And so they promote this idea of minimalism. And often I think it's very helpful as Christians, from a Christian perspective, to hear this message, because in our culture, we trend towards more, and there's never enough. And one of the things these guys do very well is they understand the concept of enough in terms of things and materialistic ideas. And so when it comes to the tactical approaches and even some of the questions that they ask about value of things and the way they don't like advertisements and this never-ending consumption of things really leads to a hamster wheel of disaster, I strongly agree with, having been in the financial services space for a long time. And so I wanted to give them a little bit of praise on that side, but I wanted to caution people against their ideology. It's bankrupt. In fact, I think Joshua Fields Milburn, who is a very intelligent guy, is your classic atheist in this way. He actually would consider himself to be a nihilist, according to his own podcast, but they deny right and wrong and say it's wrong to judge or make moral statements. So right out of the gate, their whole position is self-refuting. You say that there is no purpose. Well, that is in fact a purpose. And you can't have an uncaused first cause that created everything. So atheism at its core, and especially the kind of the Eastern mystic Buddhist agnosticism, nihilistic ideology, it leads to things like suicide. It leads to depression, because they say, well, life is meaningless. It's just about escaping pain and finding things that make you happy. But that's not really true, because if that were the case, the immediate result, which Joshua Fields Milburn talks about, is suicide. And I would strongly discourage you from letting children listen to him because of this conclusion. Now, I don't disagree with his conclusion if you believe in a materialistic, uncaused universe. This is actually where it would go. But the evidence for a creator is so obvious that this is a foolish position. And it shows that he's in rebellion to God. So the position that they take is, well, you can't make judgments. I'm just saying this is the recipe that's worked for me. But then at the same breath, they'll say, well, you shouldn't have moral rights, or you shouldn't do this, or you can't have shoulds. And so anytime you make a statement or a declaration of any kind, no matter how flowery you phrase it or how much you try to backpedal from it being a declaration, it is a statement that you believe to be true and you are claiming has merit. And so you can't have it both ways. You can't participate in reality and make truth claims and then say there are no such things as truth claims, or these are things we've found to be true. This is a recipe. It's very flowery, very soft, very squishy language. And it's not intelligent. It's not intellectual. It's, in fact, a moral issue. I think the Minimalists are great guys. I think Ryan Nicodemus seems like a genuinely kind and happy person. I think Joshua is bitter and a bit narcissistic in the way that he approaches things and people, even putting out there for the world that the only real question is whether or not you should kill yourself, and explaining that in his podcast is very irresponsible. It's very dangerous, and it's wrong, because people are created in God's image. He's created in God's image, no matter how much he suppresses that truth. Now, some of the backstory with these guys: Ryan Nicodemus was burned by the Jehovah's Witness cult, and so he's rightly a little bit salty towards religion. And the classic nihilistic, atheistic position or agnostic position held by Milburn is not intellectual. It's foolishness. You look at creation, it's evidence of a creator. So they have practical wisdom, but they also lean very heavily into Buddhist ideology and influence. And they'll say, well, that's not, we're not pushing that on others, but you can't talk about something, promote something, and have it not influence people. this idea that things and the universe are just kind of they are. They say it just is. Well, you can't just be. You can't have nothing create everything. Ex nihilo. Out of nothing comes nothing. You can't get something from nothing. There has to be obviously an uncaused first cause that created all things. This isn't a matter of picking on them personally, but this is a matter of them promoting false ideology and false doctrine. They talk about being empty inside and just kind of not holding yourself up to other people's standards and being less concerned with others and more concerned with what makes you happy and not judging. And there's some really helpful wisdom in some of the things they're saying. But ultimately, these ideas of personal fulfillment and moral right and wrong and ultimate meaning in life, these are things that Milburn tackles, and he's foolish. He's arrogant, and he's narcissistic, and he's just flat out wrong, and it's not intelligent. I see this a lot from the people that are more intelligent. I mean, he is intelligent in a way, but in another way, he denies what's obvious, and his main issue is his own brain. He's getting in his own headspace, and he's denying what is obvious from creation, that there is a creator. And it's not like God left us without any sort of actual information on this subject. Jesus, who is fully God and fully man, lived a perfect sinless life. It's undeniable that Jesus existed, even from outside sources. If you reject the authenticity of the Bible, which I'm not saying you should, there's no higher standard. But Josephus, Tacitus, and others wrote extensively about Jesus. And so people don't deny that. And so for people to make claims about the meaning of life and then say the only real question is one of suicide is very irresponsible. It's very dangerous. And I just looking at the trajectory of where he's going, it doesn't seem like he has much hope. And that's understandable because as a nihilist, there is no meaning to anything. There is no purpose. There are just these momentary things that will eventually pass away and become irrelevant in the grand scheme of things. So why help people? Why try to help people? And he says, well, I actually don't even believe in helping people anymore, which is the result of nihilism. And I understand it. He's actually being consistent with his position, and he's being more honest with his position. But his position is foolish and dumb. It's not intellectual. God created him with immense value. God created you with immense value. You're made in his image. You're made for relationship. You're not some cosmic accident. You're not a monkey that became a person. You're not a fish that decided to develop lungs. Evolution is not a scientific ideology. And so when you look at their podcasts and you look at this idea of owning less, ascetics throughout church history have been very dangerous. They've said that material things are bad and only spiritual things are good. And that's not what they're saying per se, but this can lead to asceticism because people can say, well, I have too much, or you have things and I shouldn't have things. And so you have to be very careful with this Eastern mystic Buddhist ideology. It is a different religion. It is a false religion. So this kind of blend, to sum it up, is a blend of nihilism, which believes there is no point for anything, which in itself is a point. And they'll say, well, it's not a point, it just is. Well, you can't just be. You can't get something from nothing. You have to have a cause outside of time and space creating everything. You have to have God for the universe to exist. He has to uphold the universe in a uniform fashion, and morality and conscience bears witness to the fact that there is right and wrong. These guys know this. They care about their families. They care about people. No matter how much they say that they believe in evolution, they don't go around bullying or bossing people that they're stronger than or have more power over. They don't do that because it's insanity. And so they can't operate this way. So they operate from the vantage point that they want to help others, love others, and use things because the opposite never works. Well, Jesus said, love your neighbor as yourself, because God has written that law on people's hearts. And so I'm grateful for these ideas, but I'm also often, as I listen to them, it's foolish. It's like an echo chamber of their own egos. And what they deny is obvious that God created, and they just postulate these grand ideas like, well, you can't know. Oh, I'm glad that you know. I've heard actually Ryan Nicodemus say that, oh, I'm glad you know and no one else can know. Well, God reveals himself through conscience, creation and his word. And so to say that you can't know is a truth claim. You're saying that you know that no one else can know, and that's not true. You would have to be God to know that no one else could know that God exists, and so thereby it negates your claim. And so these guys are classic people my age that's just, it's an echo chamber of their own ego in many ways. But I do believe, that being said, I do believe they are trying to help people, whether they admit that or not. I do believe they care about people, whether they admit that or not. Now, Joshua Fields Milburn, maybe not, and he seems to be heading in a dark direction. So again, I would just encourage you that without recognizing that you're made in the image of God, that you have value, and that you will stand before God and spend eternity in heaven or hell based on how you respond to the finished work of the God-man Jesus Christ, then you're going to be in a very bad place now or later, because you're suppressing the truth in unrighteousness. You're suppressing what can be known from creation and conscience and the Word of God. And I understand the cults can make people bitter. I get that. I understand they may have some issues. But to go from there to nihilism and to atheism or agnosticism is a foolish jump. You should say, well, obviously that's not true. So which one of these is right? And that's where the Bible stands alone, because Jesus Christ conquered sin, death, hell, and the grave. So if you're still watching this, please remember to hammer that like button, like the 95 Theses. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe to the channel. Thank you, and God bless.